Divorce.
Problems.
All right. You gotta slap in the face a few times.
Why?
I'm kidding.
Why? You spent this much on coffee? I'm gonna have a stroke.
Well, whenever I start a conversation with you, it's like, hey, honey, can we sit down and talk about our money for the month? And she does that.
Every time.
How much home can I afford?
How much home can I afford?
Yeah. Hallie saw one car without a hubcap on it, and she's like,
No.
she's like,
listen.
I'm scared. And I'm
No,
like,
I was not.
I didn't want to spend any more money, and like I was stressed.
It was the day before my birthday, you cheapskate.
Okay.
We were at Noodles and Company. We weren't at a steakhouse. This is gonna sound really bad, but I didn't think our relationship would make it.
This week, we're going to be talking about why money causes so much conflict in your relationships. With that, we're going to be doing a deep dive into some financially responsible things that you should be doing right now. And to end it off, we're going to be sharing with you all our finances when we bought our first home. Let's get into this, Half Past crew. Welcome to
Half Past John.
Guys, welcome back to another episode. My name is K2.
My name is Hallie.
And if you can't already tell, we're an interracial couple and we make that our entire personality.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
All right. But we also talk about relationships, not just being an interracial couple. All right. And we get questions from you because you go to www.halfpastcha.com where you submit all your wonderful stories and questions, and where you buy your merch, and where you see the weekly blog that Hallie writes. And yeah, that's where you do that. www.halfpastshot.com.
Go check it out.
We release new podcast episodes every Monday at 7 a.m. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. Like this video on YouTube. And if you're an Apple Podcast, that's one place that I'm just like, you know what? If you're listening, I really do appreciate it because that's the one thing I don't track is Apple Podcast.
Yeah, we don't even post about it. So kudos to you. We love you.
If you are on Apple Podcast, please like message us or do something because I just want to know how many people are out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, today is a very special day.
A very feisty little episode we got planned for you.
I love this topic. And I know you guys might not like talking about money, all right? And that's okay. This is going to be a fun episode.
Maybe some people out there are avoiders.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll definitely get into that in a minute, all right? So we also want to mention we want to talk about how we built our home together. But before we even talk about that, we have to talk about money. And the one thing that Hallie hates talking about more than anything in the world is
money. But let me just say, with you.
With me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, who else do you talk money about, huh?
I'll gladly talk about it with anybody.
Oh,
I
really?
have friends that I talk to about money because I think the thing is that I don't like talking to you about money because you're so aggressive.
I am very aggressive.
Yeah. And I think that's fair to say that it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If you're aggressive about the topic, I'm not going to like talking to you about it.
I think, okay, look, I am passionate about it, but I think
aggressive.
The reason that you don't like it is because you think I know more than you when it comes to money. And so you're afraid to talk to me about it.
Oh. You're so smart.
No. I'm just saying, I'm not smart. I don't know a lot of things I don't know everything about money. I know a lot of things.
You sure act like you do. Pretty sure you can ask anybody we know and they'll be like, oh my God, Suku and his money.
All right, calm down. All right. I want to talk about it because it's an issue that a lot of people have when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, it's not always an easy thing to talk about, and especially to your significant other because... and we're going to talk about this in a bit, but there are different kinds of people when it comes to finances, among, many other issues that people act a certain way about certain topics, like money obviously is a big one, or like some people avoid talking about religion, like in the case of being an interracial couple. So this is just one of those things that can really make or break a relationship. If you're not open about your finances, that can be really damaging.
Really, really bad. Because
really bad.
This is why we want to talk about this first before we talk about buying a house. Because you physically cannot buy a house without being on the same page when it comes to money, or it's going to cause this thing called divorce.
Problems. Oh.
Oh.
Divorce.
Divorce.
Problems.
All right. It's the number one reason people get divorced, money.
Ooh.
And usually that person who's getting divorced, they're in a ton of debt together. That debt will either go one person or the other, or they'll split it down the middle, and it can become very messy. We don't want that.
No.
So let's get educated about it.
We want you to be happy.
And let's get into this, all right? So I just listened to a podcast, and I also looked into Ramit Sethi's book, all right? I don't read books often, but this is one book I'm going to read, all right? Because it has this one concept of the 4 types of people, all right? So I've learned a little bit during the podcast. This is in everything. If you want to learn more about it, make sure you get his book that just came out.
Well, I don't watch him because he talks about money.
There you go.
No, okay. Well, see, I love watching money stuff like Financial Audit.
Oh, Financial Audit's fantastic.
I love
Caleb Hammer,
that.
fantastic. I would love him to audit us someday.
Oh my gosh, we actually applied. Fun fact: we applied to be on his show. I don't think we're ever going to hear
No,
back. I think
probably
our
not.
finances might be in too good of shape to be on the show because he usually likes people that he can really call out.
Well,
He could call us out on some stuff.
there's some things happening in our future that he might want to review before we do it. And that is going to stay at that detail and no more. Okay? Someday you'll find out very soon, hopefully.
Next year, you'll find out.
4 types of people, everybody. We have the avoider. All right? The avoider avoids money talks at all costs. They do not want to talk about money, and Hallie used to be one of those.
One of those.
She is not that as much anymore, but oh my goodness. I want to talk about it because our first ever fight was about money. Well,
No, it wasn't.
Second ever fight was about money.
Who caused it?
It was me.
Yeah.
I was being cheap. I was being one of the other types.
Shocker.
All right, you guys guess what the other types are after I say it, which one I was.
Irritating, aggressive. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm just kidding, baby.
But look, we were at a restaurant
Oh God.
and
Oh.
I was talking about how I didn't want to spend any more money and like I was stressed.
It was the day before my birthday, you cheapskate.
okay.
We were at Noodles and Company. We weren't at a steakhouse. Like, do you guys hear this? Like, I just want you to really hone in on this as
I
you're
was
talking.
very immature at the time, guys. This was so bad. And the worst possible thing happened right after we left. Hallie was crying.
Yeah, because
I was upset
you
and
would
I was
not stop
trying to
talking.
comfort her. And as I was trying to comfort her, I accidentally ran a stop sign in front of a police officer.
Literally worst freaking scenario
Because
that it could be.
I was looking over and there was a stop sign and I just went right past. I just don't know what I was thinking. He pulls us over.
Oh God.
And Hallie's still crying, and he was very concerned. The police officer was very concerned about Hallie. They're like, "What's going on?" Like he probably thought I was doing something awful,
Yeah.
and so it was a whole ordeal. And I kind of had to explain to him what was going on. He's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna let you guys go and take care of this on your own, but do not drive till you figure it out." And that's what he said, and he let us go. It was a terrible day, terrible situation.
Day before my birthday, everybody.
And it's all because I was being, number 2, the worrier. The worrier stresses about the little things, the coffees, the $1 items, the $10 items, the little things that probably won't make a huge dent in your life. And I was bad. It was bad. And Hallie was the avoider. So these two people, they don't do well together. They don't. They
The
just don't.
extreme versions do not do well together.
They don't.
And you were the extreme worrier. I was the extreme avoider because we could not meet in the middle and have a normal conversation about it because it would always hurt my feelings. It would always hurt you would always come off really strong. It would always scare me because I didn't grow up talking about money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something that my family and I talked about, which, it would have probably been good if we did. And where you have which you arguably talked maybe too much about money.
Probably.
And so you had complete opposite ends of the spectrum in a relationship together, trying to talk about building a future together. And when one doesn't want to listen, AKA me, or one isn't understanding and not knowing, like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to deal with this. Then you come in even more aggressive and it's just a lot. And that was such a hard, oh God, we argued about that so much before we got, even, I mean, we were dating. We argued about it in our boyfriend-girlfriend relationship as we were engaged, as we've gotten married, but it's gotten better. But it used to be very toxic.
We grew a lot from those fights. Every single time we grew a lot. You can't say we didn't grow a lot. I have changed so much, and you have changed even more.
Why do you think you changed?
Like I said, I was the worrier, so I was always like the one initiating the conversation about, oh, I'm worried. I don't think we can afford this. I don't think we can do this. I don't think we can do that. And that triggered you like a trauma response of like, oh my God, this is happening again. And then the avoider in you started to activate and be like, I don't want to talk about this. But all I could do was worry. So all I could do was talk about it. And so that just did not clash. And the way I grew is being like, okay, be less of a worrier, look at the numbers, and be critical about your actions. And so, number 3, I am now the optimizer, and this person is stuck in the spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. This isn't good either, but it's way better than the worrier. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, because this is going to sound really bad, but I didn't think our relationship would make it as it was with us being completely opposite ends of like me being the avoider, you being the worrier. A relationship cannot work like that unless something gives, which it did.
Yeah. And so I became really stuck in the spreadsheets. I started my own spreadsheet that kind of goes through what my net worth is, how much money we're spending versus saving. And I started this in 2021 and really took it seriously in 2022. Mm-hmm. And I still have like all that data. And then I realized like, okay, we're okay. All right. We're not struggling of money, but I was still worried, but I wouldn't show, I tried not to the best of my ability to show that to you.
So it seems like a lot of your worry came from not knowing simply what the finances were, because you just said it yourself. When you had a spreadsheet, then you were like, oh, we're fine.
Yeah. I think the thing with me was that I always wanted more. It's like,
oh my gosh.
If I have this now, I could have this much.
Oh my God.
So once I became the optimizer, right? Once I did that, then I was like, oh my God, I could make so much more, or I could save so much more if I did this, this, and that. And I started to see like, oh, we're paying this much for subscription. Let's cancel those. Or let me call these people to get the thing down, which helped. That helped a ton for our own finances, right? Like I got some of the costs down, and now we're living at a very low rate that I would say most people could not survive at. Like I think we are doing a great job when it comes to living under our means.
We're doing an incredible job.
And it took me so long to realize that, but I had to get into the numbers to fully be confident that, oh my gosh, we're okay.
See, I know you say we're okay, but to me, the way I view you in this situation is you'll never think that our financial situation is good enough. And I get that. Look, I don't think we should ever be fully satiated with, oh, we're complacent here, let's just keep it that way. No, I think you can always be better in so many different aspects of life, but I don't think that you stop and slow down enough to appreciate what we're doing right now.
I think in my head, it's like we're in our 20s, and I'm like, okay, this is the time to make as many mistakes as we can. So I'm just like, I'm in the zone of like, okay, let's make as much as we can, do as many things as we can, take as many risks as we can, so then we can get ahead. And for me, I'm just like, if I take that second of like, oh, let me spend some money here and here, I like feel bad because I feel like I'm putting myself back.
I get that. No, especially I think with some of the goals that we have coming up, it's really hard for me to want to spend money on things, knowing what's coming. Like, oh, well, I could be saving this instead. Like, I've even gone to work at coffee shops recently, and I've made my own coffee at home and then just gone there to work and, saved money that way, saved like $30 or whatever just in 1 week by not getting coffee somewhere else. Cause I'm like, oh, well, I can just do this at home. I think it's just about the little things. And if you really think about everything that you do within a day, everything that you do within a week or a month or whatever time period that you want to look at, everything starts to add up. You don't realize just how much little things can cost. And if they build up over time, that's a huge expense. And if you really think about it and break it down, oh, I could do this at home, or, oh, do I really need this? Probably not. You can save so much money.
And Hallie was not that way, everybody. She has grown so much, and I'm very proud of her. She is I want her to be proud of herself for as much as she has changed for the better and for our own financial goals together. And I'm so happy with that. And that's why we are at the stage we are in our life, because we have gotten to a point of her telling me, hey, we're okay. We're doing these things. She always outlines like, we're doing these things to be here. And this is what's going to look like next month. This is what it's going to look like in a year, and you'll be fine. And her telling me that is everything. It is everything for me. And it's like me being able to hear that from her makes me feel so much more comfortable when I'm stressed out about these things, especially when I become, instead of the optimizer, I become the worrier again. I would say sometimes you are the dreamer, which is a good thing. There's like extreme dreamer. I think you're in the middle section of the dreamer. And the dreamer is, they think success is one deal away. Or
I don't think it's one deal away.
Sometimes the extreme people will fall from scams. They'll be like the ones kind of like going into those pyramid scheme type things. But I'm thinking about you as a dreamer and
more being
like
optimistic.
You're being optimistic. Like you think that if we take some risks, that we will be successful in them. And you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You believe in yourself.
Oh, 1000%.
So that's what the dreamer is. I think the dreamer believes in themselves to be successful. Mm-hmm. And so I think Hallie is a little bit of a dreamer as well. So those are the 4 types of people.
Yeah, I honestly just don't know any other way that we wouldn't be successful. I really look at both of us, and I look at our work ethic and how bad we want things. And if you want something as much as we do and you work towards it and you know how to work towards it, then how can you fail? Yeah. And if you're persistent and you know that you're going to have ups and downs, see, that's the thing too, is that I know that success doesn't happen overnight. I'm very well aware of that with this platform, with so many things that we've been doing with our business, with saving money. Like obviously that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time, and you have to be willing to play the long game. You have to be willing to be patient. I have so much patience.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Mm-hmm. And so these are the 4 types: the avoider, the optimizer, the worrier, and the dreamer. I want you all to think which one you are, or if you don't fit into any of these categories. If you have another category that you want to mention, please leave a comment down below. I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Thank you, Ramit, for coming up with these 4 characters, and I think we've kind of figured out who we are. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, one thing I want to mention about success, okay? I have always valued success in terms of monetary beliefs, and I'm starting to get to a point where it's not all about money, okay? It isn't. I know you're looking at me like, oh, wow, you didn't know that? You didn't know that? It's okay too, you didn't know that. That's what I think. That's what I hear in your head right now.
I didn't say a word.
You know, like we got the house, we got the jobs, we got the money, and then we were like, man, is this it? I mean, we're so grateful for everything we have, but we have everything that we wanted when we were when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, remember?
When we were visualizing our lives together.
We were dreaming about living together. We were dreaming about having a ton of money and being able to do whatever we wanted. I'm not saying we're rich by any means, but I'm saying like we are surviving on the money that we are making, and it's not, and I would say that we don't have to stress about it as much anymore. We're like we were when we were boyfriend, girlfriend, right? And so being at this stage, I'm like, okay, I should be happier, right? But then I realized that I was chasing the money rather than what I was actually passionate and what my dreams were. So now that's where we're kind of starting to go, is like, let's start to chase those things that actually make us happy. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about that after the next topic, which is buying a home together. Allie, how old were you when we bought a house?
21.
Wow. Think about that.
Oh my gosh.
Think about you being 21 years old. Think about the 21 years olds we know now.
That's so young. I'm thinking about that now. I'm 25. And I'll look back even when I'm 30 and think, wow, at 25, we had all this? Like, it is really crazy to think about for some perspective, because I was 21, you were
23. When we signed for the house, I was 23. And so it was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
You were 21, I was 23 because
that's not much older. Yeah.
And so like you still hadn't had your birthday this December. So you were still 21, I was still 23. And it was a crazy time.
It was.
It was COVID 2020 when we signed for the house of November 2020 of November. Interest rates were fantastic, everybody. It was at 2.6 when we were looking. All right. Fantastic. It was great. The market was amazing for people who were selling homes.
Yeah.
But for us, when we were looking, we were like, oh my gosh, we can't beat anybody. Like the bids were going crazy. Like people were bidding like 50,000 more, 30,000, 40,000 more than the actual cost of the house. And we were like, okay, we can't do this. So then we ended up going to a new build, which was its own problems.
Oh my gosh.
God. If you're going to get a new build, make sure it's like a custom home builder and not one of those homes
Chains.
that looks like everybody else. Like, oh my, the whole street is the same house, everybody. It's crazy. And so like, make sure you get that good stuff when it comes to custom homes. So we were building, right? Guess what? I was a sole purchaser on the house because Hallie had something called student loans.
Oh, don't even.
She had a lot of student
PTSD.
loans. And I said to her, give me $10,000, Hallie. So I took $10,000 from her.
He stole it.
I stole it. I said, give me $10,000 and you focus on paying your student loans.
You said you'd kill me if I didn't.
And so we spent 6 months, Hallie spent 6 months working and paying her student loans. I paid for everything between that. So like if we were going out to eat, anything that she needed, I would pay for it. And Hallie would just pay every dollar she made to student loans.
Oh, God.
Took a while. It was a lot. It was about almost, including the stuff that, all of it, it was a little over 40. Just a little over $40,000. Just so you guys know.
And since it was during COVID, the interest rates were getting deferred. So luckily, I did not have to pay interest.
Which is really great. That was fantastic. That helped a lot.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, was making $62,000 a year. All right? That was just what I was making with my bonus and everything. And so that's the amount of money I had to work with when I was coming to the pre-qualification process. So I was buying the house alone at an income of $62,000.
Do you want to know what's crazy? So you mentioned that I worked and all of it went towards my loans. So I was a contractor at the company that I work for. And with that, you'd get paid for overtime.
Yeah.
So because I was a contractor, I was hourly. I wasn't technically salary. I would work anywhere between 40 to 60 hours a week, all while, one, building the house. Two, this was the year of us getting married. So we were planning our 2 weddings, maintaining a social life, actually doing the work from my job, everything that comes in life in between, working 40 to 60 hours a week. Now saying that sounds insane at 21 years old.
Yeah, we were grinding for sure.
21, 22.
Yeah, it was tough. And it wasn't easy. That's what I'm trying to say is like, it's never easy to buy a house. And nowadays it's even harder. And so that's why I want to talk about the actual details when it comes to the money side of things. So you guys are being fully transparent. All right. Hallie was a contractor. She was making variable amounts of money, but I would say about $5,000 a month, $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And so that's what she was making. And I was making a salary of $62,000 a year. All right. So $62,000 a year, plugged it into a little calculator online. I was like, how much can I afford? All right. It came out to me realistically being able to afford a max, no more than $30,000. Or sorry,
This house was $30,000.
$300,000. That was my max when it came to how much I could realistically afford. I got pre-qualified for $600,000.
And why was that?
I don't know.
I don't know
have
either.
No idea, guys. If you get pre-qualified for a certain amount, don't try and buy a house that expensive.
Don't
Please.
max it out. Just don't. Just maybe think about why. Like, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Realistically, I could afford nothing more than a $300,000 house at a 2.7% interest rate. So we started looking at $240,000 houses. Mm-hmm. All right, Hallie.
We did.
What was the first house that we looked at? Did you like it?
No.
Why not?
Then it was the neighborhood, okay? It wasn't the house. It was the neighborhood.
Hallie saw one car without a hubcap on it, and she's like,
No.
She's like,
listen.
I'm scared. And I'm
No,
like,
I was not.
like-
Don't even lie. I did not say that.
one hubcap, Hallie.
Listen, here's what happened. So you mentioned a few minutes ago that every single house looked the same. Well, this neighborhood, every single house looked the same times like 50. Okay?
Yeah, it was no customization for sure.
And they had a neighborhood park and a neighborhood pool, and I just didn't want to pay the HOA for that. So I was like,
Guys,
I don't want this.
the HOA fee was ridiculous.
And it was just like a really crazy busy neighborhood, and they didn't have actual mailboxes. They had like those box mailboxes.
Oh, you had to like go at the front of the
So
neighborhood.
do you see my gripes about this neighborhood? I didn't want to build, and I didn't like the builder. We met with them and like talked everything out, priced everything out, and I was just like,
I really did want my own mailbox.
yeah.
Okay.
The American
Anyways,
dream, baby. You got your own mailbox.
So we started looking at $240,000 houses. Obviously, that is not what we went with. We started looking at $300,000 houses then, okay? We fell in love with this specific one right here. We saw the model home and we're like, yep, this is the one. But before we talk about that, I want to look at $300,000 homes in Indiana versus New York, all right?
Which obviously
So-
we freaking love New York. However, it is much more expensive there if you didn't know that.
Hallie took a screenshot of a $300,000 house in Indiana, which is going to be shown here, and then a $300,000 house in New York. Guys, there's a difference. I want it to be known for the people watching right now. It really depends on where you live in the world when it comes to being able to afford a house. And don't feel bad if you can't buy a house. I just want everybody to know it is okay to rent for the rest of your life if you have to, okay? This is something me and Hallie talk about all the time. It's like, okay, we bought the house. We're so happy we got the house, but now we feel like we're trapped here. Mm-hmm. We feel like, oh, we have a mortgage. We can't just leave. We could rent out the house, but that takes work, right?
And I don't want somebody living in my house.
Hallie.
I don't want to come back here like after
if we
somebody-
rent out the house, we're not coming back, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's
And
like,
that makes
okay,
me
then.
so sad. I have such an attachment to this house. And I just want to point out too, I know it's very easy for us to be like, oh, we did this and this and this and this. One, it did take us a lot of work and a lot of hard conversations and a lot of hard years.
Think about this. We
Really.
stayed at home for a whole year with our parents just to be able to do this.
And we commuted in college and we worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got
So that's also a big part of it. But I just want to say too how fortunate we are, one, that we could live with our parents. So that, and that we were able to save money. So we realized the lucky and fortunate situation that we are in. I just want to put that out there because I know not everybody is blessed and fortunate in the way that we are.
No, we were seriously so lucky to be able to stay home with our parents for a year. That helped a lot to be able to save money. We literally cut our cost to zero. We had zero debt. When we were purchasing this house, we had zero debt, nothing at all that we had payments on. And so when we were going to buy this house, we were looking at around $300,000 and we had to come up with a down payment. So how did we do that? It's called working 3 jobs during college, everybody. I was working like crazy and Hallie was working like crazy when it came to college. We would work more than we would go in class, for sure.
I graduated, not to flex, I graduated in 3 years because the last year and a half, I took 18 credits in a row, all while I was working 2 jobs at the same time. So working plus having 18 credit hours. Oh my gosh, that was a lot.
It was a lot.
So like we've never not been really busy and hustling and trying to get our life together.
Yeah.
Really.
So down payment, Hallie,
Yeah.
we had to save for that.
Yeah, we did.
You had only $10,000 to give me, so I had to come up with the rest. So what is 20% of $300,000? $60,000. Guess what, everybody? I didn't have $60,000, so we had to do something called putting less than 20% down.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up putting just a little less than 60,000. We were like around 45,000, I would say. So I put in 35 and Hallie put in the 10, and that's how we bought the house. And you get PMI when it comes to that, right? What I did was whatever that PMI amount would be, like the 100 and something dollars per month. I just told them, hey, we're going to reach 20% by this time. Can I just pay that PMI up early? So I just gave them the PMI money early, and they gave me a discount because of that. So I didn't have to pay PMI on a monthly basis because I just hate adding cost to the mortgage. I tried to get the mortgage as low as we could. And so that's what we did when it came to putting the money down and saving that money. Right out of college, I had just about $28,000 saved. All right. So it took me just a little bit longer to be able to save the rest of that money for us to be able to put that down payment on. Hallie had $10,000 after she saved a little bit while she was working for 2 months, and then she worked for 2 months, and then she started paying off her student loan. So she got that $10,000 up, so we could be able to buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
Are you glad we made this purchase?
I am.
You are.
Yeah, I think back to when we were doing it, and we were so young.
Yeah.
We're still so young, and it was such a great purchase. I would not trade this house for anything. I love it here, and we've really grown to make it a home, and that's been such a blessing that we've been able to do that together, and again, like, have such a nice space for the two of us. Truly, this is a beautiful house, and yeah, I don't know. We've learned a lot since having a house. Being homeowners is not always easy.
Yeah.
Definitely had its challenges.
Would do things different sometimes.
Yeah. You learn a lot from your first home. That's all I'll say.
A lot of working with warranties and crap. But we built the house. Everything went well. There was a few problems here and there. Warranty took care of it. But I want to talk about what it would be like to buy a house right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Terrible.
Let's say, Hallie, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm making $62,000 a year.
In today's time?
In today's time, yes. That is like hard to live on at this point in time. Everything's very expensive nowadays. And so let's say I'm making $62,000 a year and we have zero debt and we are purchasing a house. 6 to 7% right now, everybody. So I put it into the calculator. I'm putting it in the calculator. Remember, last time it told me that I could afford about a $340,000 house. That's what it said, like 368 or something like that, but I put it down to 340. This time around, I put in the calculator, 62,000, 6 to 7% interest rate. It's saying I could afford a $264,000 house. And that is at its max. Like that is,
I would not hit that
is
max.
Like you're going to be house poor. Like you are going to be living paycheck to paycheck. And so realistically, we'd have to bring that down to about $180,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen some $180,000 houses and they aren't looking too pretty. And I'm not saying not to buy a $180,000 house, but you got to do your research. You got to make sure the foundation's not messed up. You got to make sure there's no mold. You got to have an inspection. You got to do everything because you do not want to get messed up into one of those.
Yeah, you don't want to be trapped into a home that has so many issues that you cannot fix. I know so many people who've gotten themselves into situations where not, like the realtor or whoever they're, going through the house buying process with they're not legally obliged to tell you things.
Like people dying in the home.
Oh yeah, they're not, like, they don't have to tell you that.
That's crazy to me.
That is like, like there was a house in my old neighborhood that, like, the man died in there, and like they didn't have to tell the new people that bought it. Somebody bought it like a week later, and I remember they left the doors open to like air out.
That's
disgusting.
disgusting.
That's absolutely disgusting. That's like the worst case scenario. But like if there are foundation problems or like whatever else it may be, they don't have to tell you that. So you have to take that upon yourself. Please take it upon yourself. If you are looking at a used home, or like, it's very old, or like an apartment or whatever it may be, you need to get that checked out, because you don't know what could have been missed in previous inspections, or if somebody's withholding information from you. You don't want to get yourself stuck in that situation, because that happens to people far too often, and it is tricky to get out of.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, what have I done?
Hallie took a screenshot of a $180,000 to $170,000 home in New York and in Indiana, where we live. Okay.
Show the Indiana first.
So this is what Indiana looks like, everybody. Looks pretty nice. This is a great starter home. It seems like perfectly reasonable. If you look at the estimated monthly amount, it's about $1,000 a month. That's totally manageable at $62,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's fantastic. Now let's look at a New York home. All right.
It's very based on
$170,000.
Yeah.
Guys, what is this, Hallie? What is this? One picture.
I don't know.
There's a mailbox that says mail on it. That's not even a mailbox. That's just like a plank of wood.
Yeah, it's a plank of wood like nailed to the home.
Well, at least it's only $845 a month.
Hey,
it's a good
that's
deal.
reasonable.
In Staten Island.
Never mind.
Yeah, don't purchase this home. And back to my point, it really depends on where you live in this world.
1,000%.
So we are so blessed to be in Indiana, of all places. Like, it is fantastic. Pricing here is so affordable. You can live off $62,000 a year in Indiana.
Yeah, if you're in like the suburb area.
Really struggle in a big city.
Oh man,
or the East Coast or the West Coast, you would struggle. Mm-hmm. And so everything is a little more expensive. So you gotta understand the finances. I really suggest if you guys are looking to buy a home right now, look up how much home can I afford on Google.
How much home can I afford? How much home can I afford?
Yeah, it's a great thing to search, all right? You put in your numbers, you be realistic when it comes to your money, and when you're putting in your salary, stop putting in your gross salary, put in your net salary, because that's the actual money that you see in your bank account. All the taxes stuff, you got to take that. Just pretend like it doesn't exist, all right? I always use what comes after taxes. And so use that money, and then whatever that amount is, that is a realistic number. All right, Hallie, this was a great conversation on how to buy a house. It was tough to buy this house. We made a lot of sacrifices. There was a lot of crying involved because I was such a worrier and you were such a, what is it called?
Avoider.
You're an avoider, Hallie.
Yeah.
And so it was tough, but I'm glad that we did all those things, even though it sucked.
I have a couple final questions for you. So one, going back to the relationship aspect of this, if we were sitting in front of a couple right now and they're saying, I'm having a really hard time talking to my significant other about finances, how do I start the conversation? Or if it goes awry, what do I do? How do we find a middle ground? And how do we make this, a source of open communication for both of us?
You gotta slap in the face a few times.
Why?
I'm kidding.
Why?
Don't do that. But I would say, what are your goals? Ask them, what are your goals?
But what if they're too afraid to even bring up the conversation?
If they're too afraid, you have to talk about the finances. So let's say you're afraid, just start the conversation when it comes to the money. It'll be like, hey, do you know how much debt we're in?
That's kind of an aggressive question to start off in.
Hey, do you know?
Okay, like talk to me right now. Like, look at me.
Do you know how much debt we have right now?
Like sweetly. Be like, hey, baby.
Do you know how much debt we have right now?
Okay, so why are you starting with the debt?
I like the debt question. You need to know how much debt you're in. Okay.
Hey, are you having a good day? By the way, do you know how much debt we're in? That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, how about this? How about be like, hey, do you think we can talk about money sometime?
No.
Okay, let's see. Let's try something else. Hey, Do you know how much I made last month?
See, now that's getting me thinking. So maybe I don't know.
Okay.
$6,000.
I made about $3 last month.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Look
Yeah,
at the
see?
time.
See, I think that the conversation started. That's a great point. You gotta
It
lead
seems like
into
you don't
it.
know how to lead the conversation.
Well, whenever I start a conversation with you, it's like, hey, honey, can we sit down and talk about our money for the month?
Oh,
And she does that.
every time.
She's still the avoider, everybody. She'll never learn.
I always talk to you about finances. It's just you're like, well, you did this and this and this
No.
and this. Hallie, you didn't need to do this. We've done the financial audit on each other in the past. Yes, because you're like, you spent this much on coffee? I'm gonna have a stroke.
Okay, I've said that once in my life.
You're like so over. See, if you weren't as dramatic, and if we could have a very level-headed conversation about it, that'd be a different story.
Okay.
And I still talk about it. I still will talk about it. I just am not happy about it all
Okay.
the time. I'm just like,
Yeah, she's
okay,
definitely.
okay. I just
But
sit
it's-
there and I take it.
But it's because okay, but it's because I've caused so much trauma,
Yeah.
and I've gotten to a great point of like I don't even mention it as much anymore in terms of finance day because we have a monthly
Oh,
finance day,
God.
everybody.
Finance day is so triggering to me. Like, it's not even funny. And I'm not even going to lie. As we were talking, like the whole first half of the episode, and especially when you brought up that story,
Mm-hmm.
my heart just kind of started to hurt a little bit because of all the hurt that we
Yeah.
experienced for years. And it made me really sad.
More like you because I
Yeah.
caused all the trauma.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
really hurt. I'm not even just like saying this. I mean, it still makes me really sad to think about, even though we are in a much better place now. But that's what I'm trying to get at is that if you don't handle the situation properly, think about the trauma and the hurt that it can continue to have an impact on your significant other years after the fact. I mean, like, again, I still think about it and it still makes me sad. And that's why it's so hard for me to talk about because I just have so many bad memories associated with talking about money with you.
I do regret a lot of the things I've said, but I have one question. Do you think we'd be where we are if we didn't have those
my
conversations?
gosh. Do you just want me to pat you on the back and tell you that you're so amazing?
I do think that a lot of the reason that we are here today is because of the hard conversations we had.
Well, yeah, and
now,
I totally I agree.
I'm not saying that I had
it-
made those conversations easy.
No, you didn't.
And so I regret starting a lot of those in a negative way rather than, hey, let's do this in a positive way and get you comfortable talking about it because you were never exposed to this stuff. And I think I just assumed that you would be okay with talking about it in an aggressive manner because that's all I heard. I was like, money, 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 you know? So it's like, I don't know. It's
Mr.
just,
Krabs.
yeah, it was just a lot.
And, I do want to say thank you because of your expertise. We are in the situation we are in. However, don't get a big ego because the way that you could have handled every single money conversation could have been so much better. And then I would have handled it better. And I wouldn't have also escalated things and made things worse and gotten emotional. And I hate getting that way, especially when we were in the process of building the house. Every little thing, because the money, they're like, oh, do you want this and this and this and this and this? And we're like, oh yeah, we want that. We don't want that. We do want that one though. We want this version of that. That starts to add up. And that caused so many arguments all along while planning our weddings, all along the most stressful time
Yeah.
that
Well,
I've experienced in my life.
Those conversations we had when we were building the house, like the items that we were adding, we were getting a little too involved when it came to the other people that were coming into the conversation.
Yeah.
We had some of my family come in the conversation, some of your family come in the conversation, and that can get complicated because it's like, oh, but you're like going with what they said. Why aren't you listening to what I say?
Especially when you're already frustrated and you're like, oh, well, why are you listening to them?
And so when
Do you even want this?
when your family starts getting in your relationship,
Oh,
be careful.
don't
I'm
let it
just saying.
happen.
Just
Don't let it happen.
don't let it happen. If it's a big decision like this, you and them. You talk to each other, and that's the only people that hear about your conversation.
See, and again, we were so young when we were doing this whole process is that like our friends, our family, we listened to everybody around us when we just needed to focus on us.
Yeah, and everybody was saying something different. It was just tough.
Yeah, it was. And that's, that's on some other people, but also that's on us because who cares what other people think? If we know what we want, we chase after that and don't let anybody else interfere.
Just a few tips. I have a couple tips. All right. Number one, what we just said, if you're making a big purchase, it's okay to get advice from other people. But when it comes to the final purchase, it's you two. You two talk about it. Make sure you're on the same page. Don't ever go out and buy a random car as a birthday gift. I've seen those videos. All right. Don't do that. Talk about the finances when it comes to big purchases. Mm-hmm. Number two, I think you need to track your finances. How much money is coming in? How much money is coming out? If you're in the negative, you're doing something wrong. Think about all the subscriptions you have. Write them all down. How much are you paying for your rent, mortgage? How much are you paying for your gas, your electric? How much are you paying for Hulu? I know this month in October, your Hulu or Disney Plus account has gone from $16.99 to $18.99. And guess what I did? I went in there and downgraded my thing to, I don't know, like $16.99 or something with ads. Because guess what? I can deal with ads. I don't want to pay $20 a month for whatever Disney Plus. And so think about these things, and make sure your internet is not too expensive. All these things that add to the list. Write them all down. Calculate. Oh my God, this is how much a month I spend this much a month minimum. Like that is going to come out of my account. And if that is more than what you make, start canceling some of these things because you don't need them.
And you don't realize how much these little things actually cost you in a month because when you start to look at it, like each subscription starts to add up, all of your coffee trips, all of your Uber Eats, everything starts to add up, you guys. And it's only when you really start keeping track of that and really noting it and understanding what you're actually purchasing and what you want versus what you need that you're like, oh, maybe I should cut back a little bit because this is actually costing me way more than I thought. And this is not going to help me get to my financial goals. That's the other thing. Set financial goals.
That was number 3.
Oh,
look
I'm
at
a
that,
genius.
Hallie. So yeah, you need to set goals. Set a goal. I don't care what the goal is. Be like, hey, I want to have $100 saved by the end of this week. Done. Mm-hmm. I want to have an extra $1,000 at the end of the month. Okay? Just set an easy goal that is achievable. Don't set outlandish. Don't be like, oh, I want $100,000 by the end of the year. I'm so sorry. $100,000 is just not going to pop up out of nowhere. And so don't set unrealistic goals, but set realistic goals. Last one, I want number 4.
Oh, go ahead. I'm going to see if this is what. Just go.
Okay. Number 4, when it comes to saving, have an emergency fund saved. You have to have it. Just in cases something goes wrong, you need to have at least 3 months saved. I do 6 months, but 6 months of your income saved. All right, do it. That was number 4. Do you have a 5?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Live within your means.
Boom.
Live within your means. Really think about that. Again, this goes back to the conversation of me saying you need to think about what you need versus what you want. And that's ultimately what it comes down to because I could be at Target, okay?
Yep.
And it's like therapy for me, truly. Just being in there, walking around, looking at all the things for the home, looking in the dollar section. I love the dollar section. Looking at the mugs, looking at the candles, looking at everything in Target. Again, like therapy for me. It makes me feel good. Okay. And yes, I want to buy everything when I go in there. But do I? No. And there was a time where I could easily spend $100 in Target. And that was not very smart of me. Granted, we weren't married at the time. It was when I was, like still in college, or I wouldn't think about things that I wanted. I would think about things that I wanted, but I wouldn't think how that would impact me later on if I were to, oh, I like this. I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to get this too.
This is what you're trying to say. You were thinking the short term, not the long term.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were thinking about those instant gratification rather than waiting to get something bigger that you actually want.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know you have told me in the past that you you want something, you think about if you really need it, and in a week, you wait a week. You're like, I want this so bad right now, but I'll wait a week. See if a week later you really want it. 9 times out of 10, you probably won't.
Guess what? My first camera, I told my parents I wanted it. 6 months after I told them I wanted it, they got it for me because they saw that I proved to them. Like, first, they got me like a cheap 50, or I think it was like an $80 camera. They were like, here you go. You can have this. You can't have the $600, $700 camera that I wanted. And they gave it to me. They were like, do something with this. If you can do something with this, then we'll trust you. So they gave it to me about a week after I asked, the $80 one. And then I started playing with it. I was like, I made videos. I did something huge with it. And then they were like, oh my gosh, he's actually got some skill. Like we believe him. Like he's proven the fact. He's given us all the reasons. And now we can give him the camera. So that was big for me, a learning moment. Be like, okay, some things should not come to you instantly because you have to earn them. And you'll be way more grateful for it if you earn it.
Yeah, and that's where true happiness lies, I think, is if you actually work for something. Like, I'm sure many people can relate to this when you have your first job and you work so hard to earn your first real paycheck and it's like $80 and you're depressed. And you realize, wow, I worked so hard. Like for me, for example, I washed dishes at an old person's home and I hated that job. I hated it so much. It was awful. The old people were so mean. That's a whole different story. But I worked really hard at that job for the 3 months that I was there. And every time I got my paycheck, it was like a slap in the face.
It was bad.
Yeah. But it does make you appreciate money so much more. And I think everybody needs to have a crappy first job or job experience in general, because it does make you appreciate the money that you earn in this world to be able to get the things that you need/want.
Those were all our tips. I really hope you comment if you're an avoider, optimizer, worrier, or dreamer. It really does impact your relationships, whether you like it or not. Money is a big portion of a lot of problems in relationships. So we would love to hear from you. If you have them, if you don't have them, if you don't talk about money, if you're the avoider or if you're the optimizer. I hope it helped a little bit to understand how we purchased a home at a young age. It was difficult. It wasn't easy. We had a lot of help by being able to stay at home. And I hope the tips that we have to save some money, you can actually apply them and come back to us maybe. Be like, hey, it worked. This is something I'm doing. I would love to hear from you all. So thank you all for watching. Hallie has a few more announcements for the end here. She has something coming out.
I do. So on October 30th, my second YouTube video is coming out.
Let's go.
Wait, where's the... okay, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so on October 30th, which is a Wednesday is the day for my videos. I'm still kind of deciding the frequency, but honestly, since it was the day before Halloween, I really just wanted to release it that day. So my video is coming out on October 30th, which is a Wednesday. So please stay tuned. At 4 p.m., my video will be coming out. I'm really excited for you guys to see this one. I've put a lot of thought into it, and I've learned a lot from my first video, and I think it's just fantastic. So I think you guys will really like it, and I can't wait.
Make sure you go to www.halfpastshot.com to submit your own questions and stories and buy the merch if you're interested.
Look at the merch.
No pressure to buy it, but it really does help the channel. Every single purchase goes straight back into the channel, and it helps us a ton. So thank you if you have already purchased it. We see your name, all right? Don't worry. We love you all, every single one of you. And I just want to say thank you, Half Past Crew. We really appreciate you. We thank you for all the support that you give us. And guess what? We'll see you next Monday at Half Past Job.
Thank you everybody so much, truly, for buying the merch. It was overwhelming to see how many people were interested in it and cared about it and really just loved it and appreciated the time and effort that we put into it. So thank you. We have so much. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
Please buy the merch.
Because so we got green, we got beige in hoodies, and we got t-shirts, and we got this lovely little mug. The mug is the best.